ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, canines, felines, amphibians. What's up? It's your boy Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, and my pal, my comrade, my favorite animal advocate in the whole freaking galaxy, Valerie Heffron. What's up, Val? What's up, kid?
Heyo, I am really excited for today. I'm excited for today's topic. I'm excited for our returning guest, an amazing person who I just love and adore, not only because she is a fantastic professional and lawyer, but she's just a really good person. And the best part about this is that she wants to get more involved in animal advocacy.
Welcome to the tribe,
So
Donna
do.
Fiorelli. Welcome to the tribe.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be here. No, it's a great honor. Honestly,
We like
to be
having you
amongst
on this
guys.
team. Come to the dark side. We have cookies. I'll just say that. Because I like cookies, and it's not the dark side. Honestly, it's the opposite. This is where the light is. And why? What do you mean this is where the light is? Well, so Val,
I'm
it says
getting a
in our.
delivery. Sorry.
Oh gosh! Oh my God! Well, get that human out of there. Let's see the dog.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dr. Be Well. By the way, hello
Hey.
there, Joby. What's up, handsome?
Hi, everybody.
Wow, Val, I didn't know he could talk like that.
Yeah. So actually, I wanted him to be part of the show today because he is a rescue dog. And, that is one of our topics is, people a lot of times think in their minds that they can only get a certain kind of dog. And, the truth is there's rescues for like every single kind of dog that you can imagine. So
Before we jump into that,
right.
obviously we want Joby here, but before we jump into that, I just want to introduce this. If you've never been with us before, I want you to understand something. I am just about to recreate our mission statement right here live for you. And I'll tell you why I'm going to do that. It says here, as I look at my notes, and this is what we wrote, we want to amplify the message. Crossing out want to. We are already doing that. No big deal, just changing the world. Hashtag no big deal, just changing the world. We are amplifying the message that the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. We are supporting each other in business. It's already happening. This was something that we talked about, but it's happening. So we need to put this into the present tense, Valerie. Don't you agree, Val?
Yes, and I want to add also, we want to support each other in business, in rescue, and in animal advocacy.
Absolutely. And we want to do that because when this compassionate network comes together, everyone wins. Especially the animals.
I get it.
Joby, thank you. Joby, thanks for paying attention. You've obviously watched the program before. You know how it works. You know what we do here. Last before I let Valerie take it away, is I'll say this. We come together to really do three things. It's to learn, it's to educate, and then we take that learning and that education and we go to work. We advocate. That's it. Learn, educate, and advocate. That's what we're doing here. Valerie Heffron, take it away. Introduce our guest. Let's jump into the story.
Okay, so Donna, like I said, is a returning guest, Donna Fiorelli. She is a highly specialized and brilliant attorney. I've seen her present, and let me tell you something. She will blow you away. She somehow makes even things like bankruptcy interesting. No offense. So she's a bankruptcy lawyer and a foreclosure defense
Who was
lawyer.
offended? Who was offended? Bankruptcy? We're going to get offended?
I don't mean to call bankruptcy boring, you know what I mean? But it's financial stuff. And this young lady can squeeze more words in 60 seconds versus anyone else I've ever met. But aside from that, she genuinely has a heart of gold. I know people who she's helped, and they have claimed, that she is a lifesaver. And so now the fact that she wants to combine her big heart and her brilliance to help the animals, that is just, it's music to my ears. So without any further ado, today's topic that we're going to really dive into is the business of animal rescue. And legally, I asked Donna to come to the table with some valuable information because a lot of people don't know a lot about animal rescue. And that includes people who maybe want to get into it. You know what I mean? So here we go, Donna. Donna Fiorelli, take it away wherever you want to start.
I appreciate this very much. It's a fantastic opportunity to be amongst you guys because you see, I'm from the other side. You guys are so heavily involved. And yes, I'm an animal lover. I'm a professional. I have a career, but when I'm not practicing law, like all the other professionals that are the lovers of animals, awareness, education, and learning it's not easy. It's not easy. I mean, I learned a tremendous amount just by hanging out with you guys, being part of these programs, following you, trying to support your causes, like all the many other professionals. But it's the fuzziness, it's the gray areas of a lot of these rules and regulations, and it's the awareness is where you got to start. So for many people on this podcast today, it might seem very simplified, but I'm going to build as we go forward. So the beginning, the number one question is, so what is animal rescue by definition? So animal rescue is defined as a true social service that protects animals from dangerous conditions involving abuse and cruelty. So the legal definition of animal rescue is a social service. I found it to be very interesting because along with that, it's a combination of, what should be rules and regulations and what good public policy would be when it comes to animals and for people.
And enforcement. And enforcement.
And enforcement, well, yeah, that comes with it. Now, again, we live in and I don't want to jump around, but the society we live in, and I do that a lot, is where it's a dual governmental system. So in other words, we have federal law, we have state law, and underneath the state law, we have all the local offices. And because animals are not granted human rights, it's very difficult to get them into the system. Because now more than ever, they're actually deemed more important than just private property. They're always just personal property, like a watch or a car or a pair of shoes. So over the course of the years, we've seen massive improvement, but we also see where it's needed. So then, is an animal rescue organization different than an animal shelter? Okay, there's a great level of ambiguity and flexibility surrounding these two concepts. If there were to be a key difference between a rescue and a shelter, it would be, generally speaking, that animal shelters tend to have facilities that house the animals, whereas animal rescues are typically foster-based organizations. Regardless of what they call themselves, whether you're dealing with a shelter or a rescue, both types of these organizations have a common goal, and they exist strictly to help animals. So which animals are subject to rescue? Now, all the different rules and regulations are not federal, they're all state. So the number one group that is subject to rescue, as you can imagine, is dogs. Now, the following information, I have to give credit where credit's due. Okay. Grace Hussein on January 14th of 2022 wrote an incredible article. She writes for sentientmedia.org. And she came out with all these statistics that are going to blow everybody's mind really quick.
I'm ready.
So when it comes to dogs, the number one group, every year, an estimated 3.1 million dogs enter shelters across the United States. As high as that number is, that number actually has decreased to an estimated 3.9 million dogs since 2011. That shows you the tremendous improvement of dog placement or dogs not entering into shelters. Okay, so it just shows you.
Hold on 1 second though, because I have to just interject with a quick question. Was there any reference to there potentially being also a correlation to like the financial markets, the economy? Because I personally am hearing that more animals are being surrendered now because there is economic hardship, and I don't want to get political. I'm not going to call it a recession. I think it's a recession. That's how I was taught in school, but whatever. But regardless of whether it is or isn't, inflation is high, and the real estate market seems to be slowing. So I'm just curious about if that person referenced. I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping that everybody's just adopting and not shopping. But I'm wondering if it's economical because your time frame was during a very bullish era, right?
Yes. Well, the time frame that this study was done was over the past 10 years. There's no doubt. There's no doubt that you're going to see spikes. It's going to look somewhat of like a heartbeat. Okay. When it came to the rates, and that whole compilation includes dog surrenders, cruelty seizures, rehabilitation at shelters, and the dogs are actually left there, and strays. So it really encompasses all of that. But those figures are supposed to indicate a general improvement
Okay,
an
good.
improvement of the numbers that are decreasing. Okay, so after dogs, you're gonna have cats. Okay, the American Society for Prevention of Cruelty of Animals, which is the ASPCA for New York, it's located in Manhattan, in New York City. It estimates that 3.2 million cats enter animal shelters every year. Cats of all ages, conditions, and needs enter the shelter doors to be transferred to a facility or rescued, then put up for adoption or seeking a return to their owner. That's a tremendously huge number.
Yeah.
Followed by cats comes horses. Okay, horses are subject to rescue. Horses are in rescue in the United States between the numbers currently of 5,000 to 10,000 a year. They're typically rehomed because of health, behavioral issues, or lack of suitability for their intended purposes. Many of these horses are seized, okay, as well. Livestock and poultry follow that. Most farmed animals and poultry in shelters and rescues result from people keeping chickens in their backyards, okay, or from factory farms. Livestock and poultry could end up being rehomed by shelter or rescue or live out their lives at a sanctuary. And then finally, you have other wildlife. And you always hear about something like this. And I know we're in Long Island and in New York, you always hear about certain wildlife that should not be in homes, like, oh, I don't know, alligators. Occasionally something will escape. Like domesticated animals, wildlife often find themselves in need of rescue. Wildlife that is rescued will be rehabilitated with the goal of eventual release back into the wild. So that's the goal. The animals that can't be released will be humanely euthanized due to a condition or kept in captivity or at a sanctuary zoo. So then, who oversees and governs these animal rescue organizations? Who's in charge of this?
Right.
So here's a fact that many people don't realize. Animal welfare organizations are not regulated by the United States federal government.
I read that today too. Right.
So right now, so what does that mean? Okay. That means that we have to follow, and this is how we have to go back to basics now. Okay. Under the United States Constitution, anything that is not specifically relegated or expressed to belong to the federal government and not the federal responsibility is left to the states to determine. And many states do have regulations for inspecting animal welfare organizations, but generally only if those organizations opt out more than a certain number, or I'm sorry, adopt out a certain number of animals per year. So already you're sitting there like, what did she just say? Like, that still doesn't answer the question.
So hold on. Yeah. Okay. So, and I'm sorry, you know me, I got it. Otherwise I'm going to forget, but
I'll just go on and on, but it's very confusing. Yes.
It is confusing. And what I want to know, I'm going to put you on the spot, is, has anything jumped out to you up to this point that you, in your mind, are like, we have to change this?
I have to tell you, to be honest with you, I'm going to actually say the opposite for a second. I'm going to say I'm actually surprised at how many organizations and how many public awareness groups belong to the government right now, what New York State has done, what they set up, the increasing amount of money that's poured into these rescue organizations. Now, having seen that and having actually documented it and tracked it, my big question is, I don't know where the money is. Do you understand? Like, I see evidence that the organizations are set up. Like, for example, under New York State, they have the Animal Protection Federation. I never heard of them before. How come I don't know about this? Why isn't there any awareness? Why isn't there organization? Like, what? I don't know. How much money are they getting? Governor Hochul, whatever her name is, November of 2021, increased the amount of money that's going to animal rescues. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yes.
See, I got it, Val. I know you're about to ask another question. We got to leave it there.
$6 million. I had to throw the dollar amount in. $6 million she gave.
$6 million more towards animal care. Okay, let's touch that. Let's jump right back into that when we come back, because you know what? Your question there, Donna, is, well, you didn't know that, or where do you find that out? Well, guess what? This is the place, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, animals of all ages. This is where you come to learn this stuff out. I never heard of Sentient Media, but guess what? I shared it on our Facebook stream right now, because Sentient Media is a nonprofit news organization, Valerie, that
reports. They're with Harrow. They're with helpareporter.com.
You know about it?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So for those of you who don't know about it, reports on the corruption within the modern animal industries and brings these stories to the mainstream. Their goal is to create transparency and urgency around animal welfare and the problems arising from large-scale use of animals in industry, et cetera, et cetera. There's more there. Check it out. I shared it on Facebook. This is Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. Mick Collins, I see you on Facebook. We'll be right back.
Mick.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you on edge? Hey, we live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of The Edge of Every Day, which airs each Monday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and perspectives about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. That's The Edge of Every Day on Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
We're back. Pals, Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. Valerie and Donna were having this really heated, in-depth conversation around rescue, what it means, what it is. I mean, I wrote down, I think, critically, right out of the gate, you said it's a social service, which, sort of made me chuckle inside, because I hear my friend Valerie speak about a specific rescue, which I don't know if we're going to mention it all by name or not, but that doesn't operate as a social service, in my opinion, from the stories I've heard. Operates as something that is not forward thinking just about the animals. Like bureaucracy comes to mind, challenges, not looking out for the animals, all that stuff comes to mind, Val, when this is by definition, they're supposed to be a social service looking out for the animals, right?
I have so many thoughts on this, but
Yeah.
So Donna, getting back to what you were saying with the increased dollar amount and where's the money going? So what I'm thinking is if this is a government funded, the one that you mentioned, animal protection, what was it?
Well, it's not that it's there's no federal funding that's going to the
animal protection something federation you mentioned.
that was for New York.
Okay,
But
good.
New York
So
has
what
set up.
okay, so we can foil that. And that is something, I am adamantly in favor of doing. And this is what I want every animal lover to know, is that if anything is using taxpayer dollars to fund, then they owe you the transparency.
Yeah,
And-
yes. Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
Okay, yeah, so keep going.
No, it's very interesting because you were talking about these professional groups, okay, and professional websites where to get information. I came across an awesome company, a great group that's been around for a long time, animalrescueprofessionals.org. Phenomenal. They blog on a number of different topics, and I learned a lot from them and took from them, okay, to build this thing today. All right. They're the ones that will explain to you that it's not the government or the federal responsibility to oversee currently, because there's no laws on the books, federal laws, to the extent of animal welfare. I mean, there are federal rules and regulations when it comes to transporting animals, everything you can imagine, because it's livestock. They have to do that to prevent disease, how to transport cattle and whatnot. But as far as the states are concerned, okay, animalrescueprofessionals.org has beautiful blogs about national organizations involved in animal safety, well-being. They note that animal shelters and animal rescues are not getting government funding, and they want everyone to know that. Animal shelters that
Well, shelters, many shelters do. Many shelters are funded by taxpayer dollars. Example, Donna, you live in the town of Hempstead. They have a $5.5 million budget, and 4.38 goes to payroll. Just letting you know.
Okay, but is that state money?
That's town of Hempstead money.
Right.
That's your
that's local.
taxpayer dollars, right?
That's local. That's local.
Oh, I
So-
see what you're saying. Okay, I got
Yes.
it. Right.
So-
Okay.
So under New York, so New York's got a great website, something else you can check out. So what does New York do for animal safety and well-being? New York has created the Federation and a division of animal cruelty enforcement. They have a beautiful website. The Federation created this website to help you know the law as it relates to companion animals in New York State. Now, a companion animal is a pet. Anything that is legal to have is a pet, right? So as the advocacy voice, they consider themselves to be the advocacy voice of New York's animal shelters. The Fed, they call themselves the Fed. I found it to be interesting, okay? Because it's not the federal government, but they call themselves the Fed. Focuses on public policy and legislative initiatives at the state and local level. Among its legislative accomplishments, this is what they've done.
Okay.
Companion Animal Capital Fund, $5 million in state funding. It's now $6 million under Governor Hochul as of November of 2021, dedicated to the capital needs of New York's shelters, cutting the hold time for unidentified cats, banning the leasing of pets in New York. Who even knew that was a thing?
I knew that was a thing.
Oh, saying, you know everything.
But I'm sitting here trying not to call bullshit because I've just got to be honest. What gets me, it's like stuck in my craw, right? Is the fact that New York City's AC&C, if you look it up, NYC AC&C, it stands for Animal Care Control. It is it's probably the bloodiest shelter in the country. Probably. I'm not going to say that definitively because I haven't done apples to apples for every single municipal shelter, but I will tell you, I mean, I forgot who we had. Oh, wow. Andrew Weprin we had on, and through FOILs, you know what's uncovered? Plus all the people who go there, they're killing like 8 dogs a day.
Val, let
Yeah.
me interrupt you. Val, just for our
Where's
listeners.
the money going?
Val,
Sorry.
just for our listeners who are not familiar with that term, let's bring everybody into the conversation.
Sorry.
FOIL. Give it
FOIL.
30 seconds. Explain it for us.
Freedom of Information Law, which gives you the citizen, it doesn't matter where you live. I can FOIL a shelter in California if I want to, and so can you. We have a right to information. Now, sometimes they just won't give it to you and then you have to fight them for it, but that's another story. So that's my 30 seconds. So I'm sorry, Donna. So okay, there's $5 or $6 million going to these city shelters, but nobody really knows what's happening to it because it's definitely not going to the animals. That I will say.
I didn't think it was that easy to find out where the money went as far as what was available on the internet. I did not see that. Okay.
Yeah.
It definitely is telling you where it's going, generally speaking, but I did not see that. Okay.
Okay.
There is something called the Shelter Rescue Registration Act. Okay. There are certain licensing requirements that I can walk you through as far as if you are going to be, let's say you want to be now someone that rescues animals. Okay. So you can actually, and this is something that I didn't realize this either. You know, here you are thinking that animals, because I rescued animals, everyone's got their stories to tell, right? More than one dog in my whole life, right? But you never really know unless you go through the paperwork and track where this dog actually came from.
Yes.
There are some rescue shops that actually are buying these animals.
Yes.
So now,
I know. Oh
now
my
they're
God.
part of the auction process too. Do you see what I mean? And here's where the cracks are. So most of these companies, and it's all about money. I know you're shocked. Most of these organizations take advantage of tax exemptions. And this is the catch. So under what they call, you know, if you're going to be a charitable function and you organization and you have to qualify to a certain extent, there's tax exemptions under section 501c3 specifically, and that's of the IRS code. Okay. And allows for federal tax exemptions for nonprofits, specifically those that are considered public charities, private foundations, or private operating foundations. It is regulated and administered by the U.S. Department of Treasury through the IRS, but they do not oversee general operations of the organization. So once you claim these tax exemptions, right, the IRS will check on you. Oh,
Yeah.
let's see, what kind of business are you operating? Okay, great. But they don't go in and they don't monitor the day-to-day operations.
Correct. Oh, let me just move, hold on, I gotta move my pom-pom. Let me just, so what you were just talking about is something, Donna, which is infuriating. And Tommy, I'm gonna put these dots together because you have to realize, this is what people refer to as retail rescue, okay? So Tommy knows very well how hard a lot of people have worked to get the anti-puppy mill bill legislation passed through the Senate and Assembly in the state of New York. In fact, Tommy helped assemble and pull off a couple of call nights where we had a bunch of people making calls to the legislators. So the point is, this is years in the making. What we have fought so hard for, and is hopefully going to get signed by Governor Kathy Hochul shortly, so it goes into effect, is the fact that, like Donna was saying, there are rescues. Tommy, tell me how you feel about this. There are rescues that are going to puppy and dog auctions where they're buying these dogs from puppy mill breeders. And the argument on the other side, to be fair, is like, they're saying, well, if I buy a dog from a commercial breeder and I'm taking that to my rescue, I'm going to have it spayed and neutered, so it's not going to be bred. So they're, in their minds, that's the justification.
Well, all right. Yeah. So you want my
They're
reaction?
creating demand. Hold on, let me get this out because you're gonna be very interested in this. Our friend John Goodwin, JP Goodwin from the Humane Society, was quoted recently in a Huffington Post article regarding this issue. And so HuffPo reports that some rescuers have been buying dogs from commercial breeders, AKA puppy mills, at dog auctions. They do so, it would be nice if I had a haircut, so I could read, they do so in the name of saving an individual dog, but as a result of the increased demand, they cause the prices of dogs at auctions have been pushed up considerably. Puppy mills in response have ramped up production to meet increased demand. I mean, this is just nauseating.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, we don't curse on the show, but you already said bullshit, but that's kind of effed up because, I mean, we're fighting against this thing to, what we're fighting against and are fighting against is the destination point where these animals are sold from, right? And if these rescues are giving them an alternative to be sold there, well, you're screwing us. You're kind of screwing the deal here. So now, that said, Valerie, with that little bit of information you just shared with me and my gut reaction, that's what I come up with.
Yeah,
I need more details. We need to have a conversation about it. You know, we need
the article
but we need to get JP on the show because again, my knowledge in this is limited, but right away my gut says, hold on, man, something don't smell good on that. You know what I mean?
Very diplomatically said.
Well, it's me. You know, I'm a diplomat, you know, like
no, not
like
you, JP Goodwin very diplomatically said, quote, we oppose buying dogs at auctions, he said, because it puts money into the pockets of irresponsible people who treat dogs like they are disposable. And that is the guy in charge of the End Puppy Mills campaign for HSUS.
All right, we got to take a break. We got to share that article. We got to share that article before we literally go to a break. I got to check in on Facebook because we got some new people that I've not met before. I want to say hello to Kevin Shaquille Mendez. Thank you, Kevin. I knew you'd say that. I checked to see that you guys are connected before we shouted out Kevin. So I see that. Mick Collins already sharing the website for NYSAPF.org. So that's on Facebook. And Sandra Valdez says, we have a rescue in Texas shut down by the Department of Health today and sending dogs to New York, town of Hempstead with, wow, this is like just in, Val.
Hey, Sandra, I've spoken to her. Hi, Sandy.
You know, Sandra, so she's saying that these animals are being sent to New York with heartworm, distemper, parvo, URI, Chagas, to name a few. Most of those I understood, but Chagas I didn't know. So, wow, I think it's time we do take a quick break and maybe we could address some of this when we come back. This is the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. We do three things. I see it, Sandra. Yep. We do three things here. We learn, we educate, and we advocate. We'll be right back.
Yes.
Howdy, I am Joseph Franklin McElroy, host of the new podcast, Gateway to the Smokies. It airs on talkradio.nyc every Tuesday night from 6 p.m. to 7. Every episode is dedicated to memorable experiences in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and surrounding areas. This show features experts and locals who expound upon the richness of culture, history, and adventure that awaits you in the Smokies. Tune in every Tuesday from 6 p.m. to 7 on talkradio.nyc.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sauvert, employment law, business law attorney, and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
And we're back. This is the
Holy
professionals.
moly guacamole.
Oh,
Sorry. go ahead.
Okay. Holy moly guacamole.
I
That's
say
it.
that.
Well, hold on. Hold your holy moly guacamole. Now, for a second, for more than a second. Welcome back. This is Pals. All right. Now, next part about this is I didn't know what chagas was, if I'm saying it right. But Sandra, because this show is all about getting schooled, getting educated, right? I'm coming to school every Wednesday from 2 to 3. I'm coming here to learn. I might know a couple things. I'll teach you about them, but I'm here to learn. And then we go out and we advocate. So chagas, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Sandra, is from kissing beetles. Now, here's my thing. Because I have to deflect with humor, there must have been a lot of chagas during Beatlemania because the Beatles probably kissed a lot of girls. Just saying that Val, if I don't do it, I'm going to be mad at myself later on.
I know, but you're wrong. It was actually kicked off by Beetlejuice. Just letting you know.
Oh, God. See, you're trying to outdo me. You're trying to one up the kid. All right. So, and then my other joke was, don't kiss beetles and you don't get chagas. All kidding aside, Sandra, we know this is a tragic situation. We
I
know
need a
it's real.
link to an article or a news outlet
Yeah,
or
Sandra, if
something,
you can
and then
give us
we'll run
something.
with it and we will talk about it.
Yeah,
Donna,
share it with us. Give us the information so we can have a document on it. Val, get back into it. Let's do it.
Yeah, Donna. So getting back to the retail rescue or the other things that you just mentioned. So just let me know. I don't want to keep asking you, but just let me know if anything like kind of captivates you or triggers you, and because that's what I feel like happened to me, where like all of a sudden I was like, what do you mean this is political and it's a law and we have to change it, we have to fix it, we have to make this better, you know what I mean? So if anything like that goes off in your head, by all means, let's get into that.
Yeah, no, I definitely see this cracks in the system. I mean, I don't have to be a genius to say that. I mean, we're seeing it, right? So when you really backtrack, if these things are happening, if these puppy mills are popping up everywhere, that it's because of opportunity. And how do they have that opportunity? So if you backtrack it, someone's not looking out for them. Someone's not looking for them. So where's the broken system? And I don't know the answer.
Right.
But when I did my research, and and listen, man, we all know it's all about follow the money, right?
Yes, and it's very sad. It's very sad because if you think about it, like there's a lot of good people out there. There's been a lot of awareness raised about adopt, don't shop, and if you are going to purchase a puppy or a dog, buy it from a reputable breeder, not some website over the internet. They just ship you a dog in a truck, whatever. But here's the thing. A lot of these good-hearted people who want to rescue and they seek out a rescue, they're sometimes not as great. They could be compared to a mill, okay? And poor housing conditions, deplorable conditions. I personally saw in the town of Hempstead, the still current director, don't ask me how, I'm just giving you my opinion, the still current animal shelter director he has a very well documented history of shipping dogs out to places, rescues that have been shut down for animal cruelty, neglect, and deplorable conditions. Okay, there's a real problem with that. He's also sent friendly adoptable cats out to an outdoor sanctuary in Maryland, and I have the foils to prove it. So trust me when I tell you, if anyone wants to try to give me a hard time, bring it on, baby. I don't talk unless I have proof. But anyway, the point is, you know, the woman who ran the rescue in upstate New York, she was, and may she rest in peace. I'm not attacking anybody, but she clearly had some severe issues going on, okay? It was not the first time she had a rescue that was shut down. Prior to that, she was a foster parent to human children, and CPS took the kids back, okay? So this is clearly, it's a pattern, but somehow these dogs went to her. Just recently, last week, no way I'm gonna pull this date right now, but it was August of this year, woman charged with animal cruelty had nearly 200 dogs on property, okay? We need regulation and enforcement. I will say that.
I've got a crazy idea. It's worked. It worked when it comes to prostitution. It works when it comes to hiring unlicensed contractors. Kill the market. Make it a severe penalty if you adopt, if you pay for, if you get for free, if you foster an animal from an unregulated or unlicensed organization. Now, I know there's people on this that's probably going to like call in and be very angry with me because that's going to put a big dip into the fostering and adoption of animals. But if you penalize the people who actually participate with these unsavory groups, just like in prostitution, just like if you hire an unlicensed contractor, you have a very hard time suing that contractor in court because you did not take, you didn't do your due
You
diligence.
don't understand how many people just started listening to this show. So many more people are listening to the show, and they don't, it looks like, I'm checking in, they don't care about animals, but they a whole bunch more. We just got all these new fans.
Well, I'll tell you, I like the idea of penalties. However, I also think that I think that there are some people, they have larger than life hearts and they hurt for the animals, because you have to realize all of these rescues, they don't operate alone. You know, they have supporters, they have volunteers, and the people who get involved, they want to save the animals. So they might go into a place that has horrific conditions and everything, and they're like, I've got to get this dog out. This dog needs to get a walk. You know what I mean? But I don't know, it's hard, but I will say this, and I'm a big proponent of this. One of the red flags, I mean, you have to treat this like any other business, okay? One of the red flags to look for if you're going to rescue an animal, transparency, okay? Demeanor and attitude. How do they field your questions? If you ask them a question and say, hi, I'm interested in adopting a dog. Can you please tell me where your dogs come from? And they go, what are you talking about? We only, like, they get defensive, kind of like the pet store lies. Oh, we only source from the most reputable people. Okay, where? And if they don't want to tell you and it becomes a problem, then it's a problem, probably. If they don't allow for people, if they have a physical location, but it's close to the public, that's a problem. If you want to think of what to look for, let's flip to the positive side. Let's talk about one of our honorees this year, Regina Mendoza of Camp Happy Tails. She has the highest standards of care. She invites people to come and volunteer there. She has fosters out of her own house only. That's the only place that her dogs are. These dogs are out for hours a day, 4 times a day. They get treats on their pillow when they come back from their exercise. They get high quality food, essential oils. She's a dog with wheels, and he goes to aquatherapy once a week. Okay, so let's say I want to adopt a dog. I'm going to go there because I want to support a rescue that is treating their animals really well. Doesn't that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense. I think New York should have a qualified rescue list. I think that if somebody's going, now listen, a lot of these organizations, I mean, I could talk to you about the Humane Society, I could talk about ASPCA. I truly think, and these organizations didn't start yesterday. The Humane Society started in 1954. I mean, these groups have been around a long, ASPCA 1866. I mean, this is how old and how established a lot of these institutions are. But here I am, okay? And I know all this because I looked it up, okay? But hey, listen, I walked into Petco one day, okay? And it was Adopt a Dog Day. And that's where I saw Ollie. And now, and I'm gonna be honest, I assumed, and it was Petco. It wasn't, you know, some run of the mill, they didn't have a box on the corner, a puppy's grab one. It wasn't like that, you know, it wasn't a puppy mill situation. And when I was growing up in Staten Island at the time, my father would go to the shelter, and whoever the next dog up that was going to be euthanized, whoever it was, that was a dog he took home. Yeah, and that's how we came across Fonzie. Don't even ask me how we named that dog. Yes, I was 10, my sister was 6. And my father looks at the 2 girls and says, okay, one of you girls can name the dog and one could take care of the dog. And I was a 10-year-old. So I go, I'm taking care of the dog. And it was in 1977. And my father says, all right, Priscilla, my youngest sister, what do you want to name the dog? Fonzie. 1977. But yeah, and that's how families did it. That's how families did it.
So, but that's I love that your dad was like, you know, who's in jeopardy, you know what I mean? But
yeah, it's like, Val, he's like the governor coming in at the last moment, you know, before the animals go into the chair. He's getting a pardon. Wow, I love your dad. Is your dad still around or no?
No, he's doing much better things than we all are here. But
I love that guy, man.
He got out of here.
He definitely went to the good place for sure.
And Donna, you know, just getting back to the shelter thing for 1 second, you know, one of the biggest bones of contention, no pun intended there, but one of the biggest problems that rescues have with, let's say, the NYC AC&C is that they'll say, we're going to pull this dog is on your kill list, we want him or her, and they'll kill it anyway. I mean, it's abominable. It is abominable when that happens. I was involved with that with another dog from Hempstead. His name is Brock. I will never forget this dog as long as I live. This dog was in the shelter for over 2 years, and we had a rescue who stepped up and said, we'll take him. They went through all the hurdles. They got town attorney's approval. And 2 days later, when they were supposed to pick it up, they killed him.
Are these just like sadistic, shitty people? Is that like what it boils down to, Val?
I believe that was retaliatory. I really do believe that was a retaliation kill, in my humble opinion, because we were putting someone's feet to the fire. At the time, she was the supervisor of the town Hempstead. She campaigned on the animals. I helped her win that election. And then she really screwed everybody over, especially the animals. So when we got that commitment, we were all high-fiving. We were so happy. We were thrilled. And then 2 days later, that dog was gone.
All right. We do have to take a quick break again. I do have a question I want to ask you both as we go to break that you can think about when we come back, and maybe it'll be something we'll talk about, but it is probably a topic we need to discuss on the show in more detail. What I do want to say, Sandra Valdez, thank you for private messaging me these pictures. I'm good at a lot of things. Facebook is not one of them. So Val, we'll have to figure out how to get these pictures that Sandra sent to me on the thing. But I will say, you know, just this week, tragically, a horse named Ryder in New York City fell down. I'm not even going to speak about the fact of how the driver of the carriage then decided to whip and hit this animal. But what I am going to just talk about is, Val, there was a protest yesterday. I was on my way to Pennsylvania, so I did not stop in New York City to go to this protest. But I was like, man, Tommy D, this is the kind of stuff we're supposed to be at, you know, which a year ago, I wouldn't have even realized they said it on the radio, right? Yeah. So as I'm listening to the radio, 1010 Wins, they said that yesterday. So I do want to talk about that because, you know, there's an article here with PETA. There's, you know, certainly other agencies involved, but a cute romantic ride around the park can happen in other ways. And they're talking about putting some carriage in place of the animal. So Val, to whatever your knowledge base is, and this show is all about learning. So if you don't know a whole bunch about it, we'll talk a little bit about it. And then we should probably get somebody who does know a bunch about it. So Don is here, Val's here, Tommy D is here. This is Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. We'll be back to bring the show to a close. And Donna will make sure in the last segment to let you know how to get in touch with her if you need her services, because the whole thing is about educating and then supporting the people that we work with. We'll be right back, pals.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Calling all pet lovers.
Pet Avengers, assemble!
On the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show, we believe the bond between animal lovers is incredibly strong. It mirrors that bond between pets and their owners. Through this program, we come together to learn, educate, and advocate.
Join us live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
I just want to say my phone is blowing up right now.
Yeah. Is it? Well, hold that thought. Lock the doors, keep your kids outside because it's potty mouth on the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. We said the S word 3 times, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I'm feeling finicky and I might do it one more time before we close the show. Val, why is your phone blowing up? Because mine is, and I'm texting and like private messaging, Facebook.
I will say this. Yeah. Let me just say this really
Sandra,
quick.
Go ahead.
Yeah. This is very important, okay? And I hope, Sandra, you're listening and everyone else, because I know firsthand how incredibly long it takes, how frustrating it is when you know that things are going wrong within the world of animal rescue and welfare, and you have the evidence and you're bringing it to light and you're reporting it to the authorities and you have your proof lock, stock, and barrel. However, we cannot share something until it is also validated. And what I mean by that is that there's no question. So it can't be a photo of a sign because we have no idea exactly when that was taken or what that means. We need a link to an article. We need a news stream link, or breaking news, whatever it is. I'm really sorry, guys. I get it. Okay. I would like to pull the hood back too. You guys know me. Okay. I don't protect animal abusers or anyone who profits.
I love how like smart and conservative and thoughtful you're being. And I don't mean conservative.
You have to be.
No, but I love it. I would probably just be show the pictures, man. Show the pictures. But see, that's why we certainly are the yin. We yin and yang, right? We yin and yang.
Also, my lawyer's here, and I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have allowed it.
She would not have allowed it. We will not allow it. Thank you, counselor.
So let's get back to Donna. Donna, were there other things that you wanted to bring to light? I know I can't believe what time it is, but what do you got?
Well, no, I got to tell you, well, 2 things. First, I want to go over that the 14-year-old horse. I did a quick review. I did a quick search on it. So if anybody doesn't know the story about the New York City carriage horse, there's a 14-year-old horse named Ryder who had fallen down, just like what Tommy had said. The dog couldn't get up. The horse couldn't get up out of busy 9th Avenue for over an hour. The owner was whipping it to get up. The police were spraying it with water for it to to, get up. They eventually got the horse up and to a vet. The vet did diagnose this horse with a particular form of encephalitis. It's like for the horse to have a brain swelling. The horse is on the mend. For anyone who was listening to what had happened to this horse. So the horse did survive. The horse was definitely noted to be emaciated and in poor health. But at the same time, New York City will defend its rules and regulations, because now you're not dealing with a companion animal. You're dealing with a work horse. This is
Donna, you said it's emaciated. Excuse me. You said the horse is freaking emaciated. It's hot out. It's obviously dehydrated. It's not giving enough water. So you know what? If that's your property, dummies, if I sound like my 7-year-old, if that's your property, like, why are you not taking better care of it if you're going to put it out there? And then now let's change this subject. It's not just property. It's an animal, Val. But let me just finish. Let me just finish my whole thought. It's an animal. It's not just property. So now it's a human, it's a living being, and you're not taking care of a living being. This is wrong. You know what?
Okay.
Go.
I'm gonna explode. Sorry. These
Go
are
explode.
Sentient, beautiful creatures
Right.
with intelligence. And you have to realize, when we say that animal welfare is 100% political, that is because it is true. Mayor de Blasio, he campaigned on this very issue. He vowed to eliminate and end the cruel and often neglectful and abusive carriage horses in New York City. Okay. He's another one who broke campaign promises, and now he's gone. But this issue is still very much in need of support, because these animals are not treated well. They break down from heat exhaustion. Like you said, they're malnourished, they're emaciated, they're overworked. And let's be honest, I mean, this is an antiquated kind of tradition. What was an antiquated tradition too? Greyhound racing in Florida. They eliminated that too when they finally all realized, hey, this is an abusive industry. So I don't know. It makes me crazy, but all I know is this: people like you, whoever's listening, okay, and our good friend Donna here is a prime example. Okay, she's an animal lover. She wants to get more involved with animal advocacy so that we can make the world a better place for animals. We need you. We need all of you. That's my spiel.
Yeah, I do want to say, for people that are starting out like me, like how do you get involved? What do you do? How do you learn? Go back to basics. Go to the Humane Society's website. What an incredible website. It talks about what it is, what it does, what its mission is. I can run off, we don't have time, a huge laundry list of things that they do. And then, more importantly, rather than preaching from the pulpit, this is, we're all for animal welfare. Okay, well, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do it? So I'm tinkering around on the website, and I'm going to be honest with you, in preparation for today, I was playing around, okay?
Yeah.
And it had to do with 7 ways you can stop puppy mills.
Yep.
I'm like, wow, check this out. Not only are they telling us what is a puppy mill? Why is it bad? Where do they come from? Why is there such a market? How do we stop such a market? And I'm talking about, again, this website covers everything from dogs to cats, all companion type of pets, horses, chickens. It goes on and on, because again, it talks about countrywide. But here we are in Long Island. 7 ways you can stop puppy mills. Useful items. Number 1, help make retail pet stores puppy friendly. Walk into your Petco, walk into your local stores. It actually has links that you can click on, and it gives you a written scenario on how to do that. Number 2, be an advocate. They have advocacy guides, how to be an advocate. Number 3, contact your legislators. Number 4, write letters to the editor. It's giving you samples. Number 5, print and post flyers. Now, hey, look, it all starts with awareness. And you don't have to.
It's there for you. It's there for the person, whether it's you or me or even Valerie, to go back as a refresher. And I know Valerie's gonna say, I don't know it all. And yes, of course you don't, but you know more than some. But you know what? It's not like you have to go and rewrite it. It's they're empowering people to go do the thing. So what is that website? Shout it out for the Humane.
Okay, that is the humanesociety.org. I guess /resources.
I'm sure Mick Collins is putting that on Facebook right now, and if he wasn't, he is.
humanesociety.org.
So Donna and Val, I got to interrupt you because we're out of time, and here's what I need to do. Donna, You are an incredible asset to this team. You're an incredible asset to what we're working on here. We appreciate you. Tell the folks what you do professionally and how they get in touch with you, please.
Well, thanks again for allowing me to come here today. I mean, this is like the real passion. This is what really makes, what I do complete. Okay. By trade, I'm an attorney and I practice in the areas of bankruptcy and foreclosure defense. I represent individuals and small business owners who are looking to reorganize or eliminate debt. I have an extensive background in mortgage banking and finance. And because of that, I have become very helpful to homeowners who are looking to retain assets, whether it be their home or as well as other assets in the event that they have to eliminate and reorganize debt in state court, in federal court. I conduct a free initial interviews, free initial consultations where I conduct an interview and we discuss exactly what that particular client's.
How do they get to you? How do they get to you? No, you're good. How do they get to you though? We're running out of time. I don't want to run out of time.
I'll just shout out my phone number is 516-783-1950. I have an office in Carl Place, New York, and it's the law offices at Donna M. Fiorelli, PC.
Now, listen, folks, if you're going to explore bankruptcy, whether it's your business bankruptcy, your individual bankruptcy, why the heck wouldn't you speak to somebody who spent an hour talking to us about animal advocacy? Get it together, folks. Donna's our friend. Donna's an advocate. Donna is an asset to this project that Valerie and I are on. Val, say something for the folks before I do.
Donna is also one of our cherished, beloved sponsors for the inaugural Compassion Awards. And if you are an animal lover and you are not there, you will never understand what you're missing. But
so when is it, Val?
It's October 11th at the Refuge, and you can find your tickets at pal-show.com. That's PAL-show.com.
Love that word, pal-show.com. Don't spell out HYPHEN, just use a dash. I'm your boy, Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connected. That's Valerie, my favorite advocate, and Donna Fiorelli. We're going to leave you with some famous words that we end every single episode of this show. In his total commitment to nonviolence, Gandhi always included the animals by stating, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated.
Amen.
Everybody, make it good.
Yay, Gandhi. Thank you, Donna.
Oh, I hope it was helpful. I hope it was helpful.
Very helpful.
I try not to, I know I'm like really basic, but I'm learning this stuff. So you guys are like eons ahead of me.
We needed 2 hours.